All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's continue this conversation. And joining us now is Franklin Mukwanja, Executive Director, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, live from Copenhagen. Franklin, what did you make of the president's speech?
Thank you, Trevor, for inviting me to discuss the President's Madaraka Day speech. I managed to follow it from my location here. And I find that the President is trying to initiate a debate, a national debate, on the issues that he believes are critical. However, the things that captured my attention is the way he framed his four legacy issues: economic acceleration, particularly the big push investments, looking at how he's trying to revive the dead capital, his ideas around restoration of dignity. But when he comes to the political stabilization, I think we have to continually ask whether he has valid or invalid arguments based on the premises and the conclusion he's making, because these are matters and subjects of contestation, not just in the political space, Trevor, but also in the judiciary. And as a president, I think he has received some wise counsel from the 5 High Court judges that he must be, because he's sworn under the Constitution to guide this country on a constitutional path. And whatever reservations he has, I think he has to postpone those feelings and be able to await for the exhaustion of the judicial process. He will be vindicated, or he has to be magnanimous enough to say, come on, I am human, and therefore I made a mistake, and let us look at a new path. And he must also be ready and willing to compromise and negotiate, and not just saying it is my way or the highway. I think from where I sit, his discussions around the paradox of choices, his discussions around the political stabilization ideas are matters that need to be debated from an open mind point of view, and not the straitjacketing that his advisors may be seeking to compel him to go through, or whether that is really his vision that he wants to actualize and shape his legacy around, are things that we cannot allow that conversation to go that way. It is a free country. It's what he calls himself self-rule, that must give us self-worth. And the self-worth here is also about the accountability of those in public office, the inclusivity in the decision-making processes. And these are the questions that even other arms of government have put into challenge. So I think that is what I got from this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Simea, where does this leave the judiciary? Because today is a case management conference, and now they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. So if they rule in favor, it will be seen like they are bowing to the executive pressure. If they rule against it, it will be seen like they're further defying the executive again. So there's no winning on this one, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one for the judiciary. But Trevor, to make it a good conversation, I should be able to hear Franklin. I do not hear him at all.
Okay.
I hope the technical team is working on that. On to your question, judiciaries are ideally made for this kind of things, that they will always come under public attack by people who are dissatisfied with their decisions, by people who feel like they are not serving their cause, and so on and so forth. So my expectation is the judiciary will soldier on with its work, the Court of Appeal will soldier on with its work, and if merit shows them that they have to do away with that decision, overturn that decision, without fear or favor, they should overturn the decision. If by merit it shows them that no, they should uphold that decision, without fear or favor, the Court of Appeal should uphold that decision. So unlike you and I and other people out here, the judiciaries have to have a hard skin, tough skin, like rhinos, or even more than a rhinos, for this kind of attacks by litigants, by interested parties who may be unhappy with their decisions. And unfortunately, as I said earlier, this is not coming from an ordinary interested party. This is coming from a president of the republic, chief executive of the nation, first among equals in terms of heads of the 3 arms of government. It is somewhat unfortunate, quite unfortunate actually, that it came out in public. I wish he would even have expressed his sentiments in private. He has reason. He has, I believe, actually legitimate reasons to be disaffected and to mention what he's mentioning. But I think he needed to temper that with a bit of sensitivity towards the role of the judiciary and public perception and a perception within the judiciary. So with regards to what the judiciary should do, I think they must just go ahead and do their work and hope for the best as we go forward. As I said earlier, it is not the judge's judiciary. It is not Martha Kome's judiciary. It wasn't before Maraga's judiciary and his Wakora, as they said before. It is the people's judiciary. It is our judiciary.
Okay.
So we have to do that work with that confidence that they derive their power from the Constitution and from you and I and Cynthia and others as the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya.
All right. Cynthia, do you find it interesting, though, that the Deputy President, on the other hand, was stressing the need for respect for independent institutions to foster the rule of law and not the rule of men, something his boss seemed to have deviated from?
No, I don't find that surprising because it is already established that the two are working at loggerheads. What has come out is that the president is willing to have him by his side for probably ceremonial functions, but on the political aspect, they're not reading from the same script. And so his pronouncement as the deputy president is one that, because we saw his reaction, immediately the High Court gave their ruling and he said that that was the correct thing for them to do, that the entire process needs to go back to the drawing board, that we need to open it up and start talking. We have been talking. We have been talking from the last election. There was a lot of pressure. If people remember where we were at 2017, the two elections that were held just after the one that we had on August 8th, and then the second presidential election, the country was about to go to the dogs. But the two principals, the president and Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, came and they shook hands. We must not forget that. They are coming and they are representing the people that have supported them. He is coming with 5 million votes. He's coming with 5 million votes. The two of them are now acting on behalf of the people. We have donated our powers to them, and now they're acting on behalf of the people. For the deputy president now to say that, oh, he's siding with the technicality of things. He's siding that we should have gone through the entire process by the book. But there's pressure from the people. When there's pressure from the people, then you yield to what the people want. And I think that's the way that we would want to see this going, that the Court of Appeal is going to overturn this decision from the High Court, and that we're going to see that this process begins to move forward into the referendum.
Yeah, Mukwanja, what do you think in terms of the way the president and the deputy president seem to be reading from different scripts? Franklin?
I think, yes, I think, Trevor, the challenge that we have is we are having the first partners, for lack of a better term, operating under the new constitutional dispensation of having a running mate. All of us know that the history of the vice presidents, if they had a very firm contrary opinion as what Deputy President William Ruto has exhibited with his boss, he would not be in his job today. But we are in a democracy, and there are reasons why Kenyans put in place these constitutional safeguards for such offices. And it's important that the conversations, I mean, having a contrary opinion to your boss does not mean disrespect. And I think let us give it to the deputy president, as long as he does that respectfully and does not seem to challenge government policies that have been agreed. The challenge that I have with this approach alone is that have these issues been articulated in the spaces that he sits where other Kenyans are, or does he want to play to the gallery so that inside boardrooms he seems to be collaborating and cooperating with his boss, or certainly keeps quiet, but when he comes out in the public, raises these issues to look good much better than the boss. So this would be my worries. But in terms of holding a contrary opinion, I think we gave it to ourselves by the way we designed the executive and making sure that the deputy is on the ballot as well, and obviously then does not get fired because the president does not hold that big stick anytime he wants to wield it. As to whether he's impeachable, it's a subject of discussion as well, because he has seemed to have a very good following as well with the, the bosses that would have him as well. I think it's a healthy debate to have, contrary these ideas and ideals are going to help us move the country forward, or these disagreements contribute to the challenges of governance, is something that we can only achieve out of testing and going forward with what we gave ourselves.
Okay. Simeha, let me bring you back in on this, and you touched a bit on it. Let's move on from the judiciary conversation, talk about the 4 legacy frames which he's talking about. The president spoke about the economic acceleration, increasing the speed of achieving the national goals at the national and county level, and he gave a scorecard there, said since 74 years of colonial occupation, the colonizers left us with a GDP of about 6.4 billion in 1963, post-independence with a period of 50 years combined administration, Kenyatta, Moi, and Mzee Kibaki, 4.5 trillion. His administration, he says, 10.3 trillion. Do these figures make sense to you?
I wish, I hope, I know that, most likely millions of ordinary people in Kenya are watching and may want to, if they had an opportunity, they may want to answer that question. Do these figures make sense to them, not just to Jamie Simeha? And and this is why I call them dry statistics. Where is the place of odious debt, public debt in those figures? Where is the place of corruptly procured debt, as Auditor General has pointed out in the past? Where is the place of scandalous mega projects that lie all over the place by national government and by county government in those statistics? What sense do those statistics, especially the ones on health, make to a woman in Vihiga County yesterday, Trevor, as President was reading that? She was wheeling the dead body of her mother on a hospital bed from Vihiga County Hospital into the streets, trying to take it home because she has no money for transport. And when her mother died the previous night, they have not been attended to. The body has not been taken to the morgue. So she's now in distress, wheeling that body onto streets of Mbale town to take it to a higher constituency where she comes from to bury her mother. Do those statistics make sense to this lady? The president should begin by talking to us about the software, our system. Is devolution succeeding? Healthcare, for example, is devolved. Is it succeeding? Have we empowered counties? Do we hold them accountable so that they may deliver to the people? If this is happening, the people will deliver those statistics themselves. The people will talk about the qualitative as well as the quantitative outputs of the healthcare system in this nation. It will not be about the statistics that the president reads to us, whereas you have, again, like in the same country, hundreds of health workers who have not been paid for 20 months. 20 months. Yeah. When they hear those statistics, do they make sense to those health workers who haven't been paid for 20 months? There is a disconnect between what is paraded as development and real human development. And real human development begins with the way we manage public affairs, the way we govern ourselves, the way we connect with each other so that we pull in the same direction, so that we all contribute to it. But just bring water in a few places does not equal to development. So I would say that I think we have lost so much. For the last just about 1 decade, we have missed something in terms of human development. The enthusiasm that was reawoken in 2010, I think by 2013 we had lost it. And I've not seen it come back. And this is why I keep saying that I hope these opportunities, whereas some people see mischief, I see opportunity in this thing called BBI for a national conversation, for us to look at each other in the face, in the eye straight, and agree we went wrong. Can we fix the foundation of this nation so that we can embark on true human development and not just statistics on brick and mortar?
All right, Mutere?
I think the president has made a pitch for the country to be a regional hub. Remember that yesterday we hosted the president of Burundi. He's a regional leader. Now coming into Nyanza, that actually, or Kisumu town actually, hosts the Lake Basin Development Authority and the whole lake. When he's giving these statistics that he's speaking, and speaking of the economy, he's now selling Kenya as a regional hub. he's selling Nyanza to be like the capital for the region. And that is, I think, important to take cognizance of the fact that we have the Lake Region Economic Bloc, that the 14 counties around the region have come together and are trying to do these things. When Semeka is making those points and really giving those examples down to the counties, giving examples of a lady who's trying to get healthcare and the challenges. These are the challenges that we are facing down here. But then, of course, as the head of state, he still has that responsibility to leverage on the place of having that function here in Kisumu, here in the Lake region, so that it is elevated to be the economic bloc and the regional bloc for the East African countries. So it was important for him to bring that out. We may not understand all those statistics, but for the economists, they can work on that and to see that how can they now move that forward and to press forward, even for the Lake Region Economic Bloc and the counties that are involved in the region, so that they even form a link with the East African countries around this place.
Yeah. Mukwanja, these numbers may be true in terms of the growth pattern, but do they reflect on the people's pockets?
Trevor, I think the economists say that there is a thin line between economic growth and economic development. And I think what the president gave us are nice figures. But how important are they to us? And how are they, at the end of the day, affecting the bottom line of Kenyans? The useful data that would turn the Kenyans' attention, would demand the attention from Kenyans, I believe, is the president continuing the conversation around how he is battling corruption and enabling to make sure that the resources available are really serving Kenyans. And I think dropping the conversation around corruption when Kenyans are fully aware, including himself, that we lose 2 billion shillings a day is not an easy thing to mention with such issue that the president was putting across. To what extent has this government created the jobs that they promised? To what extent has this government affected the poverty line? Many people have gone, under during these COVID challenges. So many SMEs have gone under. We have not had any listing of companies on NSE through, giving out the shares. And these are the issues that we're asking. Is this economy under Uhuru so special that can be hitting such figures, but the effect is not being felt? So I think the president is cherry picking what to report, and it's not resonating well with the people that he leads. And as long as the people are not feeling it, the people are not seeing any difference, they are not going to appreciate these statistics, however right they may be, however scientific they may have been generated. The people have to feel that there is development, there is improvement in their lives, which is not the case with this kind of figures. And therefore, the believability is the challenge here, however correct and scientific they may be.
Yeah. Simeha, he continues to say at the county level that the BBI dream was proposing to raise the minimum revenue allocation to 35%, sending even more resources to the counties to catalyze the accelerated development. Did you find it strange that throughout the entire speech, and I also read it, there was no mention of corruption?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, yes, BBI did make that proposition to raise 35% revenue to the counties. But there are many more things, many more radical things, Trevor, that are not out in the public domain in this BBI report that I would have liked someone like the president to keep bringing out, like what I've talked to you before on the policy doctrines that question the foundation of this republic, national ethos and responsible citizenship, national identity, and so on and so forth. Those are what would drive an honest public discussion on the quality of our governance, on the ethics of our governance. I would have wanted the president to speak about that, to set the pace in terms of an honest public discussion, to acknowledge that in spite of the progress we've made, in spite of where we want to go, whatever vision we have as a nation, we have these challenges, and we are not going to develop until and unless we confront these challenges. We have a disaster in terms of runaway corruption in the counties. We have a complete disaster. But to hear the president speak on such an important day and not even seem to acknowledge that he's aware that the dream of devolution is being throttled and actually almost killed by rogue governors, by extremely corrupt MCAs, by, by county administrations that don't seem to understand the purpose of devolution other than to them being an opportunity for extraction, to extract for their own private benefit. The fact that the president is not bringing out these things, it means either that he's impervious, he doesn't know that they are happening, or he doesn't really care, since it's an extractive patronage from the national level to county level. Perhaps he doesn't care. I will give him benefit of doubt and hope that that the national institutions, beginning with the presidents and other institutions, take note of the people's cries, because then even when the president doesn't speak about it, Cynthia will speak about it, Jamie Semeha will speak about it, and other ordinary citizens will speak about it, what they feel in their counties. When I give you examples of Vihiga County, I do that because it's my home county and I'm there. That's where I live. I should hope that citizens all over can bring up these conversations so that the president will have no choice but to hear it, and other national institutions like investigative agencies, the Senate and so on, that are tasked with the responsibilities of oversight and public accountability, can hear about the governors and MCAs who have gone rogue, like we experienced in my home county.
Yeah. Cynthia, what do you make of this conversation in terms of there was no mention of corruption at all? I mean, if you can talk about the judiciary, why not talk about the institutions mandated to deal with corruption as well and jolt them into action, so to speak?
I think in one of the State of the Nation addresses, the president did pronounce himself on corruption. He has on several occasions pronounced himself on corruption. I think he wanted to use this occasion to now speak on other things. Once again, I go back to just the conversation that we've just had of hosting the president from Burundi, hosting a minister from South Africa, elevating that conversation, not to wash our dirty linen in front of our guests, but to basically say, give a picture of where we are and where we can go and how we can develop the region and Nyanza and Kisumu to be the capital for the regional integration. And so I don't think we should just bash him for not talking about corruption. He has talked about corruption. We know that he said that there's at least 2 billion being lost like almost every day. And that's something that is already in the public domain. People are speaking about it. What is left is how to now enforce it. Let the constitutional agencies that have been the DPP, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, do their work. Only just recently have we seen them trying to, and it's 14 months to election. And how are we going to enforce Chapter 6 of this Constitution? Really, to see that the leadership that we are putting in place at our devolved government, at our national government, are people who will be able to steward the country and the public resource so that they can grow the economy. We're not going to sit back and always be talking about corruption, but how to enforce those corruption and how to see that the people are actually held to account. The ones who are in places of responsibility, that they're held to account, so that they're not stealing from public resources. And so that you're not using a national platform where you have international guests to be speaking about corruption and washing your dirty linen in front of your guests. I think it was okay for him to now focus on now what is important, and that is trying to move the will of the people, and that is to move it to a referendum so that we see that we begin to now reconstruct our architecture, our political architecture, so that there is peace as we go into the next election. And that is important for the region. Remember that the region has been in opposition for the past 58 years since independence. And so this is it is a time for healing. It is a time where he's reaching out. It's a time where he's launching projects, and he has his co-principal with him. He has a co-principal in terms of the handshake partner, the Honorable Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is there with him. And so that we're not dwelling too much on the corruption, but how that we can reconstruct the architecture of our politics so that we have leaders and leadership that is able to serve the people so that there's peace and tranquility in the country for the development that we're talking about.
Yeah. Mukwanja, do you agree? Speaking about corruption would be akin to airing our dirty linen in public?
I mean, Trevor, I brought this up as my very first point on what I felt that misses in the president's speech. The believability of it out of the data that the president gave us. And I think with due respect to my sister, Cynthia, there is no much worse indignity that can be visited on Kenyans by a president who has led a legacy, who has led a government that has had serious corruption issues. He himself confessing that we are losing 2 billion shillings a day on corruption alone to avoid this conversation. I mean, the issue of whether these visitors know or don't know that we are suffering from corruption is not a subject of contestation here. We want, as Kenyans, for the president to be more accountable, and accountability is a key issue. That we do not need him saying the negative things per se, but clearly articulating what is his agenda about tackling the corruption that he has identified in government. Because what we know is that there could be more economic development if he would have been more steady in terms of leading his government to be more accountable, leading his government to reduce the corruption scandals that we have experienced. We have Kenyans dying from COVID, Trevor, and there are unaddressed issues. The president has not commented on a single issue in regard to the tens of counties that have audit questions have been raised about the utilization of COVID funds. And I think it behooves us as responsible citizens to say, yes, Mr. President, we listen to your data, it is useful, but the reasons Kenyans are unhappy, the reasons why Kenyans are skeptical, the reasons why your speech may be unbelievable to a majority is because you are avoiding the critical issues that are afflicting Kenyans. It is not easy. It is not any happy situation to Kenyans to read these reports of what is disappearing where every time, and then we say that because we are visitors, then the president should avoid that debate. We only want him to be accountable as the topmost, worker in this country, and lead from the front. Otherwise, then we just be doing the nice things and not doing the real things that need to improve the situation of this country.
Yeah, Simeha, do you agree with the Mutere's conversation that that would be akin to airing our dirty linen in public? And also, Reverend Gil Mutai says 35% isn't possible. Bomet has not received part of the 15% for the past 4 months. Workers haven't been paid for 4 months. A lot isn't working at all. It is sheer deception because already the burden is too heavy.
Thank you, Trevor. Beginning with the Reverend's observation about what Bomet is receiving. First of all, the counties are not receiving their fair share, even of that minimum 15%, not because we don't have the resources in this nation, in this country, Kenya, but because of corruption, because of odious public debt, because of failure of the National Assembly and the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to hold the executive accountable, to live to their call of duty, to live to their oath of office, constitutional oath of office. That is why counties are not getting what they ought to be getting just now. We can afford even 50%. I mean, all this money that is held in Nairobi is not supposed to be held there because such service delivery is already mainly being done by counties. Secondly, Bomet, Vihiga, and other places are suffering what Reverend is saying because of the corruption of governors and MCAs. So the little that trickles down, governors are happy to tell their people that, oh, money has not arrived. Pesa ijatoka Nairobi. That's what they love to tell the people. We have not received money, whereas they're actually looting the little that is coming from Nairobi. So without any fear of contradiction, Trevor, this country can afford up to 50% of our national revenue to go to counties because that is where service delivery is. National level is national visioning, external relations, security, and generally policy. But service delivery, social services are in counties. Secondly, whether to air our dirty linen in public or not. Whether we air it or not, it is known that we have dirty linen. Cynthia, in fact, the entire house is so dirty and it's known. We've got to speak about it. If we are genuine about curing the problem of corruption, the failure of governance, the failure of the political system, we've got to speak about these things openly. We cannot have a national conversation in private. We have to have a national conversation publicly, acknowledge our failures before we begin to work on solutions. So my argument is, if the president won't speak about it as he didn't, the people, Cynthia, you and I, Trevor and Franklin there and others, need to speak about this corruption. This is why I'm spending a lot of time in Vihiga County. I know that I have a duty to the people of Vihiga, that I must expose the corruption, the demagoguery of the MCAs and the governor in Vihiga in the interest of the public, in the interest of the Republic of Kenya. So to me, it's not about that linen. This linen is known everywhere that it's dirty, that the cows of Kenya is dirty. Let's acknowledge it in good faith so that we can begin to fix it, and we will be a proud nation.
All right. Let me take a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, Dr. Alex Awiti, public policy expert, is now joining me in studio. Thank you for making time. I know you had an engagement in the morning, but we'll be back in just a bit. I see your views coming through on Twitter, Trevor Mbija, Citizen TV Kenya, #Daybreak. We'll read some of them right after this.